It's that time again. It's time for another Saturday night special where we talk about everything rockhounding related. Hope you had a good week. I most definitely had a good week. So, as many of you are well aware that I've been doing a lot of high-speed sanding on the Richardson's high-speed sander. And I've just been really enjoying how quick some of the work is, some of that polishing on stones. I did some non-high-speed sanding. I took this little piece of picture jasper and polished, I'm blind, yeah. Polished it up. You know, it's a relatively thin piece on the high-tech diamond flat lap. And man, it's slow. And I mean, obviously there's, sometimes you have to use traditional equipment. You have to go slow. You have to use water. But man, I forgot how, it's probably been 4-ish months since I used it, 5 months, and how easily I'm spoiled. But we got this little piece of picture jasper. I have a lot of picture jasper now. A lot of nice looking stuff. But what do I do with it? I don't really want to make it into jewelry, and I don't really want to necessarily just cut a specimen and leave it. So I think I'm going to cut these little rectangles and then put them in a display case of all the different little picture scenes. I think that'll look nice, and I mean they can always be made into something more later on if I ever change my mind. But it's a lovely little stone to have. We also put up another episode of the Previously Rockhounding podcast. In this episode, we look at Rock and Gem magazine from December 1975. And if you haven't gone and checked it out, you can go check it out, currentlyrockhounding.com/podcast. But I decided I'd give you a little bit of a sneak peek preview into some of this. Like, these are such a useful, interesting thing to have, right? I would highly recommend, if at all possible, go out and try to land yourself some of these old magazines. There is so much to be learned in these. Obviously, you don't have to. You can always just listen to our podcast where we discuss them. But yeah, I mean, excellent resource to have. I know Patrick, maybe some of you subscribe to his channel. He recently got some lapidary journals and stuff, and it's a worth it investment to try and locate some of these old magazines and books. Well, I put up the Enhydros Agate refilling video this past week. Hopefully you watched it. Otherwise, here it is. You can see that agate with that water in there. Keep my hand under. I don't want to drop this thing. Yeah, there you go. That's a pretty good shot. Well, man, the comments were fantastic. Well, first off, I weighed that before coming out here, and it's the same weight. Nothing's really changed on the Enhydros. But man, people suggested pressure pots, vacuum running it in the vacuum chamber while dry, and then add water. Obviously, longer amount of time in it. That was a suggestion that happened a lot. Yeah, I mean, there's no real good information on how to try and refill something like this, So we're kind of playing it by ear. We're a little just winging it, I do want to try and do more to it. I think in the future I'm going to put it in a pressure chamber. That would probably be a good next step. Obviously, adding about 1 gram of water in 40 minutes or whatever we did, I can't even remember, is pretty dang good. It's pretty good. But how great would it be to be able to force some of that water back in? You know me, I enjoy lapidary blades. And I'm going to just, we have a problem. Okay, so we have a problem, and that problem is when it comes to lapidary blades. Now, most people cut rocks. Oh, that sounded weird. A high percentage of people that go rock hounding eventually want to start cutting rocks. And I think a lot of people have a very similar path to myself in that we went from a tile saw to more lapidary equipment. And you start to look into it then, and you're like, well, what do I buy and why and all of that? And yeah, there's a lot of stuff about machines out there, which is good. The problem we come into is lapidary blades. Now, when I started looking into lapidary blades, when I started looking at them under the microscope and really delving deep into the subject, like 100% of the information out there lands into two categories. Number one, information about lapidary blades, these types of things, from the manufacturer, okay? And you can basically disregard that information entirely. There's no way that MK is going to not say something good about their blade, their product. So throw that out the window. Then you have the other category, which is anecdotal claims about the quality. So a person saying, I've ran MK301 blades for 20 years. That doesn't actually help anything. That's just a logical fallacy, and there's no data behind this. It's just people saying things, and I have a problem with that. I want provable things. I want factual information. I want science. I want data points. So we don't have data points, so I'm going to produce data points. I would like to find good methods of testing these blades. Obviously, I can look at them under the microscope, and we've done that a number of times here, and it's very interesting. There's a lot of different factors that you could judge, and I am in the process of putting together my own standards for blades. Well, some of this requires building some stuff to test them. Let me show you my prototype, and maybe you can give me your thoughts on it here. Okay, well, what are we looking at here? We have a piece of 2-inch square tubing. Let's do it like this. We have some 2-inch square tubing. We've got some bearings. We've got a shaft. We've got a 14-inch blade. This clamp down here is just so it stands upright. Typically, I would have this in my my vise on my bench, so we have an entirely immovable object. Now, this provides a method for me to test if a blade is warped at all without doing it in my saw. My saw is all oily, it's all gross. I want to be able to test things. So I basically replicated that here. It's only wobbly because it's just balancing, so bear with me. There we go. How about there? Right there. Look at that. Look at that wobble in that blade. The shaft, all that stuff is obviously straight, and we have a bent blade here. So this is a great means of testing if a blade is bent. And to show some representations for demonstration purposes. Well, you might be noticing we have a bolt down here. And this has a very specific purpose. I'm not entirely done with this just yet. This is a 14-inch blade, and it slides, okay? And we are basically down here at the bottom of the blade. So the idea is I can measure how much deflection a blade has. How flexible is a blade, and does it return to normal? So I can go like that, and now I can measure that gap. Obviously, I'm going to make some way of making the amount of pressure pushing on the side of the blade universal so that it's replicatable. I think this is a solid way of testing the memory, the tension in a blade. yeah, I think it's a good method for it. It's simple. I can repeat it, and we can check blades for being round, and we can check how much deflection, if any, there is. And go from there, which I think it's going to make for some interesting data points. There you go. Look at that gap. Look at that bend. You can now measure. That is how much bend we have in this. So I find this to be fascinating, but this will allow me to test how much something's deflected and how much it's bent. There we go. There's our bend. Look at that. That is quite the bend in there, isn't it? Well, there's going to be more on this in the future. This is by no means done, but I think it's interesting to have a standard. We don't have standards. I want standards. I'm going to make my own standards. Well, this coming week, we have a driving video. Not just a driving video, a Rockhounding Geology driving tour, which is going to be a lot of fun. I think everybody will enjoy that. And we're going to be, of course, cutting some beautiful, beautiful thunder eggs. Just like that guy right there. All right, everybody. Thanks for coming by. Listen to what I have to say. Go check out the podcast, Previously Rockhounding. It's on all the platforms. And your support means so much to me. A lot of people have subscribed to it and are listening. And it's great. It's me and Sarah together. So if you've ever wanted to hear more from Sarah, now's your opportunity to hear lots and lots from her. All right, y'all. Y'all take care, and I will catch you on the next video.